Well, I have replaced the switch that I was talking about in the prior video. I'm going to show you where I got it from. I basically went to a junkyard. They had two Toyota Tundras, and I pulled a harness. And remember I was telling you guys, it's actually part of a harness, so it's not as easy as just pulling a switch and replacing it. So I pulled two harnesses, just in case this thing breaks again. There was two Toyotas there, and they both had them, so I said, why not? Anyway, so here's one intact harness. I had to clip a couple wires for some stuff that I wasn't going to take with me, like the shifter connects here. I'm not going to be taking the shifter with me. And then there was another part of the ignition system. I didn't need that either, and I wasn't going to spend the time to try to take it off. It was a pretty intricate assembly. So the part I need is this guy. This is the switch I was showing you guys in the video that has such a hard time getting in focus. And you can see it's got this little guy right here. And when you hit it with the shifter, it actuates, which then sends a signal down to this little connector, which is what I showed you guys connected to the ignition lock. This is also what I was having a hard time trying to get into focus for y'all. When it goes on the ignition, it pushes out this little rod. As soon as you turn on the truck and you get out of park, this little piston rod or whatever will shoot out of here and lock your ignition from being able to be pulled out of ACC. You won't be able to take your key out. That's why when you disconnected this, the key pops out. And that's what I was telling you was a quick fix to get you out of a jam. Just pull that little wire out, it'll release your ignition. Anyway, so I cut that little piece out of the, I cut that switch out of the harness. Sorry, that's the wrong word to use. I cut the zip ties off so it was loose. And I've already replaced it, but I have the old one. Here's the one I pulled out of the truck. Now, I was able to depin it. Really not that hard to do. But you do need, if you don't have the special tools to pull it out, which I didn't, all you need is like a long needle and a little screwdriver and some patience. I would try it out, which is what I did. I tried it out on the harness that I pulled from the junkyard, so that way I wouldn't mess up the one on the truck. It's kind of hard to tell, but if you look closely, see how close I can zoom in on this. If you look closely, you'll see all these pins, and right in front of the pins, inside that hole, there's a little plastic piece. It doesn't look like anything, but it moves. If you hit that with a needle and pull it down, just kind of pull it down, push it down with a needle, it'll release the locking mechanism for that pin. You also have to literally take out a piece. You don't take out, but you shove a little screwdriver right into these slots right there, and that little plastic piece will just pop up barely. That's all it needs to do. You just pop it up a little bit, and that's the other part of the locking mechanism. So for those pins, so just pop these guys out, or just pop it up. This little, it's not, I don't want to call it a door, but that's kind of what it is. It just kind of snaps out a little bit. Then go to the front here, stick your pin in like I told y'all. Right there on the bottom of those pins, you'll see, I was telling you, it was like a little tiny plastic square looking thing. It's just a tab. Don't push too hard because you will break it. Just pull it down. You're trying to push it down away from the pin. That's all you're trying to do. And then while you're doing that, you have to pull the wire out and it'll come out. If you have somebody helping you, it makes it a little easier. But if not, I'm sure you can come up with some sort of way to pull on this while you're pushing down on that plastic pin, that little plastic tab I was telling y'all that's inside each one of those slots for the pins. Anyways, so I depinned it. This is what they look like when they come out. I did a 1-for-1. That means I did one wire at a time, so that way I wouldn't have to worry about what the pin out was. I also took a picture beforehand just in case something weird, funky happened and I totally forgot which wire came out from which hole. But it's only 3 wires, super easy. Pull it out, zip tied everything back in, reinstall this connector or the switch back onto the back of the shifter assembly, and I made sure to use some sort of a Loctite. If you don't know what Loctite is, it's just you can buy it anywhere. Any hardware store usually has it, or automotive might have it. It's just a little goo that goes on the screw before you put it in, and once you put it in and screw it down, it'll harden. That way the screw has a kind of like an epoxy. It's kind of glued in. That way they won't back out with vibration. You will have a hard time trying to pull those pieces out, trying to pull this switch out. You're going to need a little screwdriver. I used a real tiny screwdriver. It was only about 2 inches long. Otherwise you won't be able to fit it in there. Y'all might have some special tools that I don't. And then this guy also kind of a little tough, because if you're trying to put this screw in or take it out, you kind of have to it's under this body. So I just didn't put this screw back in. Again, all this does is lock your ignition, so you can't pull it out of park, or you can't pull the key out unless it's in park. But I did put this back in with one screw, and it seemed to be pretty rigid. Same thing here. It's not Loctited from the factory, but I went ahead and Loctited it anyway since I'm only putting one screw in. It seemed to do the job just fine. If I felt like it was loose or something, I would have figured out somehow to screw this guy in. Also, when you go to the junkyard and you're trying to get this guy out, this is in the way. So what I did was I took this bottom screw out first. This one right here. This one's really readily accessible. And then I just stuck a screwdriver underneath the body here in between the ignition and pulled it up and then twisted it out of the way. By twisting it, it gave me a little bit extra room to put a screwdriver and take this screw out. So the way it sits in there, so you understand what I'm saying, kind of sits like that. So how the heck are you gonna fit a screwdriver in there, right? So I just took this guy, like I said, bent it up out of the way as much as possible, and then it kind of freed up enough for me to get a screw in there. Anyways, I really hope this helps you if you run into this situation where it's not your classic ignition tumblers or whatever. This is, I guess, not the most common issue, but it was my issue. I replaced it, and the truck is working perfectly fine now. The key comes out every time. Hope it helps y'all. Thanks a lot, guys.